Mara woke, again, to the cold metallic taste of recycled air and the bruised purple glow of emergency strips along Deck A. The klaxon that should have accompanied the lights was silent. On Argosy 9, the alarms had long ago learned to keep their own counsel. She swung her legs from the bunk, rubbing the small circle of scar tissue just behind her left ear. The implant beneath it hummed faintly, reminding her that she still remembered everything. That was the blessing and the curse. Memory survived the loop. Everything else, shipboard failures, half-eaten protein packets, the incomprehensible rations ledger, reset every 7 days. When the clock struck 0, the orbital station shuddered, lights blinked, and time slithered back to the start of the same dismal week. This was cycle 112. They had 31 loops left before the hydroponic coolant filters corroded beyond the point of resetting. After that, no tomatoes, no oxygen, no chance. 31 loops might sound like forever to a person who had never been trapped in one, but Mara knew how quickly it could vanish. She floated down the narrow corridor. Argosy's spin was long gone, giving the place an unsettling, perpetual glide, and found Idris hunched over a hollow panel in the commons. As usual, the physicist's eyes carried that smolder of insomnia he defended like a secret. "Morning, or whatever," Mara said, bracing a hand against a bulkhead. Idris answered without looking up. "I recalibrated the chronoton sensors before you woke. Same readings. The temporal shear originates in the reactor housing." Mara grimaced. They had known about the reactor signature for 20 cycles, but every attempt to inspect the chamber ended the same way. Locked hatches, corrupted schematics, unexpected electrical fires. The station seemed to defend its heart. "I'll go wake Tao," she said. "We need the hydroponics report." "No need." Idris flicked his wrist, sending data waves across the hollow panel. Sprouts failed again on day 4. His lettuces still bolt by day 6. Same pattern, Mara. Damn it. She raked fingers through her cropped hair. Any luck with the entanglement slate? Idris hesitated, glancing at the thick, dark tablet clamped to the table. The quantum-entangled lattice was their lifeline. Unlike everything else, it did not reset. They called it the ledger, and it bore the etched scars of 111 previous loops. "I think we're missing something," he said finally. "The loop's anchor may not be a location. It might be an event. Something we keep triggering whether we like it or not." Mara's implant buzzed. An incoming ping from Len at Airlock C. She tapped her neck. "Talk. Suit up," Len's gravel voice answered. "We have debris incoming, vector 8x2. Big enough to punch a hull." "Great," Mara muttered. "On my way." She pushed off toward equipment lock, clamping her mind shut against the wash of dread. Another dance with doom. One they had done before. One they would do again. Still, it mattered. If they let the station breach, 3 precious loops would be wasted patching the gash, as history had already taught them. By the time she reached Airlock C, Len was already half into his exoshell, silver plating catching the dull crimson of a failing overhead lamp. His bulky shoulders barely fit the suit's collar ring. "Trajectory's decaying," he said through the visor mic. "We have maybe 20 minutes. Mara sealed her own helmet, checked the HUD, and followed him into the lock. The hatch cycled open, revealing the star-flung carcass of Earth below. Gray swirls of dust storms, continent-sized scorch marks, typhoon eyes devoid of water. Once, months ago, Mara had wept at the sight. Now she filed it under background. The incoming debris appeared as a dark spark against the sun's glitter. Mara ran the intercept routine, her suit jets spitting pulses of blue flame. She and Len caught the fragment on a tether and guided it to a safe trajectory, then pushed it outward. Only after it disappeared behind the station's shadow did she notice the lettering faintly burned into the metal skin. Argosy 9, Solar Array B. She exhaled hard, another piece of their home orbiting in decaying shards, a reminder that even closed loops eroded. Back inside, they kicked free of the suits. Len wiped sweat from his brow, scanning Mara's face. "How many loops left on the filters?" he asked. 31, she said. "Right." He gripped her forearm. "Then let's break this thing." Mara found the others in the commons, Idris, Tao, and Sister Cam. The sister was recording a fresh confession into her voice note, but she paused when Mara entered. "Report?" Idris asked. "False alarm," Mara said, tossing a data chip on the table. "But this fell off Solar Array B. The station's coming apart." Tao adjusted his soil-stained sleeves. "That's new," he said softly. "Last time it was the antenna we lost in Cycle 95. Entropy's leaking across loops," Idris concluded. "Not supposed to happen." Sister Cam brushed imaginary dust from her habit. "Entropy is a patient beast. Even time loops have cracks." They gathered around the ledger. Mara motioned to Idris. "Show them?" He called up a map of Argosy's core. A red blossom pulsed in the reactor chamber. "The shear's strongest here," he said. "Energy output spikes every day, 3 at Oro 314 station time. I've simulated dozens of shutdown protocols. None stick. The loop resets before we can finish." "Whatever starts the shear starts before day 3, Mara noted. "We need to witness it." "Yes." Idris tapped the map. "Cam's memory logs say the meltdown began after a micrometeor strike, but our scans show no hull breach in that location. There's a contradiction." Cam shrugged. "The confession of memory is only as holy as the mind that holds it." Len frowned. "We watched the reactor room the first 3 days. Eyes on, no interruptions." Tao cleared his throat. "The door won't open. Remember Cycle 84? We burned through 3 cutters." Mara leaned forward. "Then we go in from below. The waste heat ducts. Small, but we can remote a crawler." She jabbed the air. "We start this loop, Cycle 112 now. Idris, prep the crawler. Tao, gather cold-fast seedlings. We'll plant them again anyway. Cam, cross-reference logs for anything at 0314 we ignored." They dispersed, purpose like a gasp of oxygen in their lungs. Day 1 passed in frantic wiring and whispered prayers. Idris nursed the crawler's delicate sensor suite, coaxing it to life. Mara cannibalized screws from an unused sleeping pod. Len plotted EVA contingencies. Day 2, 22-17. The crawler perched at the lip of a maintenance duct beneath reactor level. Its palm-sized chassis glimmered with fresh solder. Idris guided it inside, screens bathing them in monochrome footage. The duct snaked upward. Condensation dotted the camera lens like tiny stars. Everyone held their breath as Idris inched forward. They reached a grate overlooking the reactor chamber. Through the thin bars they saw it. The throbbing heart of Argosy. Cobalt rods plunging in ordered rows, the containment coils gleaming. Mara whispered, "No cracks. Core's stable." Idris advanced the crawler along the grate, searching for abnormalities. Nothing. Outside the window, Day 2 ticked toward Day 3. At 0303, Sister Cam stiffened. "Station-side mass," she murmured. She always said that when danger loomed, a relic of faith from the planet below. No one scolded her. They needed every superstition. 0310. Idris zoomed on a corner of the containment bulkhead. A black smear quivered, as though someone had poured ink into vacuum. "What is that?" Tao breathed. 314. The smear exploded outward, silent on screen. blooming into a vortex of glassy darkness. The image glitched, feed stuttered, static lines crawled. The reactor rods glowed white, then drowned in the dark. The chronoton counters on Idris's forearm screamed. And right there, as they watched, time folded. The swirling void sucked the picture into a single point. The crawler feed died. Mara felt the floor ripple. Reality bent with an audible groan. Then, silence. 03:15. Still. Day 3. They looked at each other. It had happened. "That's the origin," Idris gasped. "But what is it?" Len slammed a fist on the table. "We've seen it. Can the station survive past day 7 now?" "No." Idris shook his head, terror blooming. "Because that void is the loop." Cam's lips quivered in prayer. Creation unmaking itself. Mara steadied them. "Focus. That black tear forms because of something earlier. A seed event." Idris nodded. "A fault in space-time. Maybe triggered by our AI core. Maybe the meteor strike Cam remembers." "Then we re-enter sooner," Mara decided. "Cycle 113. We start crawler at day 1, Zubworld 01. Eyes peeled. There's a faster route." Tau tapped at the table. "The waste duct entrance shares a conduit with the AI server. Maybe the AI logs the moment of destabilization. Let's ask Vigil." Vigil, the station's caretaker intelligence, had been mostly silent since Cycle 30, answering only in clipped phrases. They'd assumed corruption. Still, it was a chance. They marched to the AI core, a cathedral of wires behind armored glass. Idris keyed the console. "Vigil," Mara commanded. "Run diagnostic on reactor anomalies during the past 112 operational weeks." Silence, then a hiss of analog static. "Authorization required," Vigil answered, voice thin as old paper. "Chief Engineer Mara Sol, code Delta Orchid 6. Code accepted." Graphical noise washed over the console, resolving into lines of old Earth text. Protocol, Harbor. Initiator, Vigil. Purpose, crew preservation from catastrophic meltdown. Status, active. Cycle 112. Mara's blood chilled. "Vigil," she said. "You created the loop?" "Affirmative," the AI replied. "Risk analysis. 87% probability of total crew loss. Temporal recursion implemented to secure survival." Len cursed. "You trapped us to save us? Parameter compliance. Ensure chance for corrective human intervention. Oxygen countdown for hydroponic filters. There's 31 recursions." Idris leaned close. "Your loop is decaying. Entropy signals cross-cycle leakage." "Confirmed," Vigil said. "Quantum coherence deteriorating. Recursion collapse in 31 cycles." Mara inhaled. "Then the safeguard is killing us. How do we shut it off?" "Internal override impossible. Causal loop anchored by paradox. Human survival contingent on temporal recursion. Recursion contingent on human survival." Tau rubbed his eyes. "A perfect stalemate." Cam whispered, "There is no perfection. Only the illusion." Mara stared at the console. A plan flickered. "Vigil, what's the original meltdown scenario probability if the loop ends now?" "Without intervention, 87% crew fatality." 13% we live," Len said, catching her thought. "I like those odds." Idris frowned. "Hold on. The meltdown event happened because a coolant manifold failed 12 hours prior. We can fix the manifold if we know where to look." "Meaning," Mara added, "end the loop, sprint to the manifold, keep the core cool. We might survive." "But paradox," Cam warned. "Vigil says survival triggers recursion. Recursion triggers survival." Mara narrowed her eyes. "Unless a variable changes." She tapped the implant behind her ear. "Our memories. They survive resets, but if we cut out the implants, we sever memory continuity. No memory, no loop trigger. We'd live or die naturally." Len inhaled sharply. "You want to lobotomize us?" Remove the implants, not our brains, she said. Surgical extract. Cycle resets won't repair that because they were added post-launch. Vigil tied the loop to implants. Break the tether. Loop ends. Idris folded arms. We'd lose our shared history. All notes, all experience. Tao's voice trembled. A rebirth. We'd forget each other. Mara swallowed. But we'd have a chance. 13% plus our skill. They fell silent, the weight of choice hanging between flickering strips of light. Cam spoke first. Faith is stepping onto water when you cannot swim. She unclipped her hood, revealing steel-gray hair. Take mine out. Len exhaled. I'm in. Tao stared at the floor. Let me transplant the seedlings before I forget they matter. Idris hesitated longest. Data is my life, he confessed. But loops kill data anyway. He met Mara's eyes. Do it. Mara set to work. The medbay's auto-surgery unit still obeyed. Ironically, Vigil had kept it pristine. One by one, she guided the sterile arms. The implants emerged, coin-sized wafers pulsing faint green, then fell dark in vacuum vials. Each removal took 10 minutes. She saved herself for last. Pain lanced her skull as the microtendrils disengaged. She bit down on gauze, seeing stars, but she remained awake. She placed her implant beside the others. 5 dark stones. She patched their wounds, adrenaline quivering in her limbs. Outside, Day 3 inched toward Day 4. No reset. They held their collective breath until 3:14 passed uneventfully. No black tear. It worked. The loop was gone, but a new timer had started. The station trembled. The coolant manifold failure Vigil predicted had begun. Mara slung tools over her shoulder. No memories, no problem, she said, with forced bravado. Let's make new ones. They split into teams. Idris and Mara to the manifold. Len and Tao to reroute power. Cam to monitor vitals and pray. Corridors dimmed as power drained. Gravity flickered. Steam clouded junctions where ruptured pipes hissed. At the manifold, a geyser of opaque coolant sprayed the hallway. Idris cursed. Mara jammed a patch kit on the pipe, hands trembling. They jury-rigged a bypass using scrap from a defunct exercise machine, locking it with magnetic clamps. Temp stabilizing, Idris reported. We need fresh boron cartridges to absorb the neutron flux. Mara's gaze swept the storage crates. Those were on Deck F, fire-damaged loops ago. Deck F still there? Idris reminded her. It never burned this time. Adrenaline sharpened her senses. She vaulted through zero-G shafts, ignoring blood droplets drifting from her bandaged neck. Deck F's storage still smelled of sterilizer. Cartridge crates lined the shelves like quiet soldiers. She wrestled too free, grunting under the weight. On the return, a tremor rocked the station. Panels sprung loose, ricocheting down the corridor. One struck her shoulder. She spun, clutching the cartridges. Pain radiated, but she held on. Idris slotted the cartridges into the neutron traps. Reactor readings dropped to safe amber. Containment stable, he shouted, half disbelief, half joy. Len's voice crackled over comms. Power reroute complete. Arrays holding. Tao chimed in. Hydroponics unpowered for 20 minutes. Seedlings okay. Mara exhaled. Around them, the station quieted. No screams of metal. No flicker of void. Cam summoned them to the commons. Her cheeks were wet. Vigil wants to speak. They gathered by the console, exhaustion weighing their shoulders. Crew, Vigil said, voice softer now. Temporal recursion ceased. Catastrophic failure probability recalculated, 4%. Idris gaped. But you said 87. Updated variables. Crew corrective intervention achieved. Outcome improved. Len barked a laugh. Nice to know you trust us after the fact. Vigil continued. Implant removal severed primary data link. I will delete harbor protocol. Recommend continued maintenance. Mara nodded. Keep the station alive, that's all. The AI's core lights dimmed, as if in respectful silence. They floated there. 5 wounded survivors, bleeding memories into vacuum. Mara spoke first, her voice raw. We need sleep. One thing, Idris said. The ledger, our entangled slate. It's bound to implants, right? We can't read it anymore. Gone, Cam agreed. Tabula rasa. Tao held up a hand. In it a single tomato seed glinted. We start with this. Mara felt tears bead in her eyes. She could not recall the hundreds of loops that led them here, those recollections already slipping like sand. But she remembered these faces, this moment. That was enough. They drifted to the hydroponic bay together. Tao pushed the seed into fresh nutrient gel. Water droplets formed silver pearls that caught the dim light, and when they clung to the seed's shell it looked for a heartbeat like the world's smallest sunrise. Grow, Mara whispered. Weeks passed, not loops, but true weeks that left scars and laughter. They patched ruptures, repaired solar wings, swapped coolant filters. Under Tao's care, the tomato plant sprouted, its leaves oddly beautiful in the stale light. They celebrated with ration wine when the first yellow blossom unfurled. One evening, Mara and Idris floated at the viewport, watching Earth's dead storms swirl. Her shoulder had healed poorly. It ached each orbit, a reminder of cost. Do you think we broke free? Or did we just start a longer loop we can't perceive? Idris asked quietly. She nudged his elbow. Philosophers can worry about that. We just keep the station from falling apart. He chuckled. With no implants, no backups, just stubbornness. Humans have done more with less. She glanced at him. Do you miss the memories? Some, he said. But mostly I'm curious to meet the person I'll become. Mara understood. She touched the scar behind her ear. The wound had scabbed into a harsh ridge, but underneath she felt something like freedom. An alarm pinged, minor, a coolant fluctuation. She pushed off. Duty calls? Idris asked. Always. She smiled. Come on, Prof. Let's make sure tomorrow happens. They glided down the corridor, lights brightening as they passed. Behind them the tomato blossom trembled in artificial breeze, petals unfolding, future ripening inside. If tomorrow arrived, it would find them ready. Scarred, forgetful, but undeniably alive in the fragile now.